Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Chelsea and welcome to Bookmas. Today we are walking through my top recommendations for winter reading as well as my current winter TBR. I will say my personal TBR leans a little bit more like holiday romance, but as far as the recommendations, we have everything from a holiday romance to high fantasy, contemporary fiction, everything in between. So let's go ahead and jump into my personal favorite winter book recommendations. The first book on the list is a holiday romance, and that is Faking Under the Mistletoe by Ashley Shepard. This is one of my all-time favorite holiday romances. I read this probably 6 years ago for the first time and reread it almost every year. You can also find this book on Kindle Unlimited, which is wonderful. This follows Olivia and Asher, who currently work together. Asher is her grumpy boss who absolutely hates the holiday season, and Olivia, who is one of the interns at the company, and she is like the walking elf. And Asher and Olivia get in a little bit of a fake dating situation and kind of spend the month of December like fake dating each other, but also going through kind of a tough situation in their workplace with one of the clients that they represent. This book is definitely a romance, but it does tend to lean into some topics that might be a little bit hard for some people to read. So if assault is a trigger for you, I'm not sure I would pick this up, but overall, like, this book is so heartwarming. It's sweet. I do find myself like laughing out loud reading this book, and I just love the dynamics between our two main characters and just Olivia herself. I just want to like give her a hug. And I'm also shocked by the amount of sugar that this woman intakes in a single day. It's incredible, but I highly recommend this book if you're looking for like a really sweet, heartfelt holiday romance. Next up, we have one of my all-time favorite fantasy series, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This book follows Laia, who ends up getting caught up in the rebellion and becomes a slave to the Marshall Empire, and Elias, who is deeply entrenched in the Marshall Empire, and he begins to realize that maybe everything he has been taught his whole life is not correct, and they kind of get tangled together into this web of the rebellion and the empire. And I will say that this series is very intense. There is a lot of war, there is a lot of destruction, there is a lot of heartbreak, but overall the story that Sabaa Tahir weaves together is incredible. And I think this would be a great book to pick up in the winter because it's such a sweeping fantasy series. Like, I really feel like you'll get lost in the series, and for me that's like the perfect feeling that I want in winter. Like, I love getting like deep into a story, to be swept away, to get completely lost in a new world, and this series will definitely deliver on that. My next recommendation is a little bit funny because this book is actually taking place in the summer, but it works, I promise, and that is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. This was one of my first romances I read when I joined the book community several years ago, and I still think about this book all the time. This is the first in a trilogy following Calla and Jonah. Calla is a city girl from Toronto, and she ends up deciding to spend the summer with her estranged father in his like remote Alaska town. And her father owns a charter plane company set in remote Alaska, and Jonah is one of the pilots. It's definitely a grumpy sunshine opposites attract type of relationship. And while I do love watching Calla and Jonah like fight together and then fall for each other, the thing I love most about this is like the found family aspect of this story and the relationship between Calla and her father and Jonah. The relationships throughout this story will definitely pull at your heartstrings and you might cry, I'm sorry, but it's just such a beautiful story. And I think the landscape of remote Alaska is so cool and interesting. It's not something that I see in many books, so I really enjoyed reading about that in this book. Next, we have a little bit of a love story. I'm not going to call it a romance. Well, it says a love story on the cover, and that is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. This is definitely a love story. It's a little bit heavier than your typical romance, but I think the thing I love the most about this book is, one, the writing. Olivia Blake's writing is so incredible, but two, just the representation that we see throughout this book. I think there were so many moments for both characters where I felt like so seen, and like very real raw emotions are written out on paper, and you're like, wow, yeah, I get that, like I feel that too. And not only did I feel seen, but I also felt like these two characters truly saw each other and were there for each other in a way that nobody else could be. And it is a little bit heartbreaking, but I think the writing just knocks it out of the park for me. And winter would be the perfect time to read this because I think you can really get lost in the story. And sometimes I want to read something that's just like a little bit heavier, a little bit deeper in the winter, and this definitely delivers that. Next series we have is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I actually think this is the Winter Night series. I want to say this is book 1, and it's an interesting type of fantasy, something I've never read before. But winter lasts most of the year at the edge of the Russian wilderness, and in the long nights, Vasilisa and her siblings love together by the fire to listen to their nurse's fairy tales. Above all, Vasya loves the story of Frost, the blue-eyed winter demon. Wise Russians fear him, for he claims unwary souls, and they honor the spirits that protect their homes from evil. Vasya then has to go on this journey to protect her town, to protect the land, to protect her family from these demons, from these spirits that are kind of infiltrating her land. And it's really cool because she can actually see these spirits and not everyone can. I loved the dynamic between Vasilisa and Frost, and how the story plays out over the trilogy is incredible. Like, it goes in places that I couldn't even imagine when I was reading book 1, and it's just such a beautiful, intricate story and very different from anything I had read. This obviously takes place in Russia and very much like the winter, I don't want to say cozy vibes, but like I would imagine reading this book by a crackling fire while it's snowing outside, and that would be the perfect scenario to read this book. Then we have my all-time favorite trilogy of all time, maybe, and that's Beartown by Frederick Backman. I love, 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 love this series. This is a finished trilogy and it will break your heart. I'm gonna tell you that right now. This story is about hockey, but it's more than just about hockey. It's also about life. It's about loss. It's about death. It's about grief. It's about loss of innocence. It's about family. It's about community and coming together for the greater good. And I think that's so beautiful that you can take a sport, you can take a small town and turn it into like the most beautiful trilogy I have ever read in my life. This does have quite a few like triggers, so I would check that out if you're considering picking this book up. But this essentially follows the people of Beartown, which is a very remote town in Sweden, and they are known for being a hockey town, but the town has really been in a decline for quite a few years, and they have a glimmering hope with one teenage player on their hockey team who is going to pull them out of the darkness and bring them back into like the height of Beartown hockey throughout Sweden. And something terrible happens and the town splits in two based on this one incident. And the whole series follows this town, these characters, but it goes much further than that. And it kind of grows larger, but not at the same time. I know that's very confusing, but I don't want to spoil anything because I think it's best to go into this book not knowing much. But this book is about hockey, but it's also not about hockey. And I like want to reread this series already. As I'm talking about this, I'm like, oh, should I add this to my TBR? Because I love this series so much. It's some of the best writing I've ever read, and truly, like, it does not get any better than Beartown. Okay, we have a couple more heavy books before we get into some more lighthearted romance, but next up we have The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This is nothing new. I feel like we've seen this book everywhere, but I kind of want to bring it up again for the winter because I do think it's like the perfect winter book. It also takes place in remote Alaska, which is funny. I'm feeling like maybe I just love remote places for the winter time because it feels like the perfect setup for a winter book. But this is definitely more like a historical fiction. I think it takes place, 1974, and a man decides to move his family north to Alaska where he's going to live off the grid in America's last frontier. And it's kind of the family's journey living in Alaska, their life there, and the difficulties that they face living there, and like the difficult family dynamics of living in remote Alaska. It's beautiful, it's heart-wrenching, it's devastating, but also like some of the best writing I've ever read. And honestly, like I still remember so much about this book, and I read it probably 5 or 6 years ago. It's just one of those books that will like live with you forever. Next up, we have a newer fantasy, and that is Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. This book came out in June, I want to say, and it's the first in a trilogy. I think book 2 is coming out in 2026. I'm just going to read the inside sleeve for you. The war is over, the dark forces have won, and the hero who was supposed to save them is dead. The prophecy lied. They were supposed to win this war. Instead, Bryony Rosewood watches, shattered and grief-stricken, as her brother is killed, her kingdom falls, and her home is overrun by their enemies. Now Evermore is no more, and Bryony is sold at an auction, prized only for her remarkable magic. Bryony ends up in the home of a schoolmate, Tovin. They have known each other for several years and are kind of like rivals at school. I will say this book is a little bit on the darker side. I mean, not quite as dark as Alchemized, but we do have the idea of being sold in an auction and being owned by another family whose intentions might not be the best. And there is a little bit of a rebellion brewing in this book, and I think that's going to build over time. We do have a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end of this one, and I'm excited to see where book 2 goes, but I think this would be a great book to read in the winter to be ready for book 2 in the summer. All right, we have a couple more romances here. First up, we have Kiss Her Once for Me by Allison Cochran. This is a second chance forced proximity romance, and I think it's just so sweet. We have Ellie, who is a Portland transplant, and she ends up kind of having like a meet cute with a woman, and they like fall in love instantly, but something quickly happens and they no longer are speaking and don't see each other anymore, and she gets kind of roped into a fake dating situation with a man, and when she goes to meet his family, the woman is there because it's his sister, and they're like, oh no. And they're forced to spend the holidays together, and they kind of have to confront their insecurities, their fears, and everything that happened when they previously met. And I think this book covers some of those topics so well. We've got some great mental health rep in this book. We've got some insecurities, we've got some fears, and kind of like overcoming all of those things, or figuring out ways to deal with those things in a healthy way and be able to like chase your dreams. And it's such a good holiday romance. Like, the holiday is there, but it's not too like cutesy, if you get what I mean. So honestly, like if you're looking for a holiday romance but you don't want like a Hallmark romance, pick this one up. And last but certainly not least, we have my favorite holiday romance of all time, Love Light Farms by B.K. Borison. This book has been out for a couple of years, and I have reread it several times. This is my favorite book by B.K. Borison. This is my favorite holiday romance, and like, you can't get anything better than this. We follow our two main characters who are best friends, and our FMC runs a Christmas tree farm, which is just so cute. And Luca, her best friend, has been in love with her like forever, but is just like resigned to being in the friend zone, and they kind of end up in a fake dating situation. And Luca, I think, realizes like this is his chance, this is his moment to like solidify a relationship and tell her that he loves her. And I just love all the little antics that go on. This small town is just to die for, and like the Christmas tree farm vibes. There's like a cutesy bakery, there's like a grumpy man who likes to cut down trees, and it's just like the best, coziest little romance. So if you're looking for like sweet Hallmark vibes that aren't quite Hallmark cheesy, this one is the book for you. Now I'm going to quickly talk through my personal TBR for the holiday season, and we're going to start with Anne of Avenue A. This is a persuasion retelling by an author duo. They have been doing Jane Austen retellings for a couple of years now. This is their third book. I'm very excited to read this one. I love Persuasion. It's one of my favorite Jane Austen books, and I'm loving this duo's retelling so far, so I'm hoping this one follows in their footsteps as well. Next, we have Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. This is the author's newest release, and it's taking place in the holiday season. We have our main character who owns an antique shop, and our MMC is a ghost of Christmas past. I'm not sure how that relationship is going to work out, but I trust B.K. Borison with a romance. She's my favorite romance author, so I'm hoping that this one will work out for me. I'm just like, the ghost aspect is interesting, but I do trust her writing. She always writes like the best, coziest romances, and I'm hoping that this one follows suit. Then we have Grace and Henry's Holiday Movie Marathon. This one recently came up on my radar. A friend of mine gave this 5 stars, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I should read it. This book follows two recently widowed spouses. We have Grace, who is a mother and the owner of a bar, and her husband passes away from cancer. Then we have Henry, who lost his wife in a tragic accident at the beginning of the year, and this is their first holiday season without their spouses. They end up kind of getting set up by their mothers, and they decide that they want to be friends and watch holiday movies together to like help them get through the season. And I just am hoping that this is going to be like heartfelt, very sweet, but also full of like that holiday movie cheer that I so love. So I'm putting this on my TBR, and my expectations for this book keep growing and growing. Next, we have Figure Skating by Lynn Painter, and to be honest, I don't know anything about this book, but I'm assuming there's a figure skater, and this is a YA romance. Her YA romances recently have been a little bit hit or miss for me, so I'm kind of concerned that I'm not gonna love this one as much as Better Than the Movies, but I am hopeful because I think Lynn Painter does such a good job with her characterization and the character development, and I just know that it's going to be like a fun, cute time. Next, I have Ruin the Friendship by Kay Cinco, and this is a brother's best friend forbidden romance, I think. Not only am I really drawn towards this cover, I have a friend who loves this author, and I haven't read anything by this author, but I'm very curious and kind of had it in the back of my mind. So when I saw this book for the holiday season, I was like, I will add it to my TBR, and I'm really excited to get into this one. Next up, we have Christmas Games and Candy Canes, and this is giving a little bit of like a sweet Christmas romance. We follow two high school rivals who find themselves back in their hometown for the holiday season, and there is a competition going on. Both are determined to win, but maybe they're not as close to enemies as they think they are. So I think this is going to be really cute. I'm hoping for a good time. This is giving like Hallmark romance, which sometimes I need a Hallmark romance book in my rotation, so this is going to be it for the season. Next, we have Chef's Kiss at the Chalet, and this one is a little bit interesting. We've got our FMC, who is a chef, and she's working at a private chef at a chalet, and she falls for the MMC, who is the son of the family that she is a private chef for. I think I'm getting a little bit like forbidden romance. I'm hoping it's not going to be like too tension filled and like anxiety filled, because sometimes I feel that when there's something that's forbidden in their relationship, but I think it's gonna give me like the small town cozy holiday vibes that I'm wanting this season. So I'm hopeful about this one. I also have it on audio, so I'll be listening to this one on audiobook. Then we have Merrily Ever After, which is like a collection of short stories by Catherine Walsh, and this follows the characters from her previous Christmas novels, which I'm so thrilled about because I love Catherine Walsh as an author, and I love her holiday romances so far. She did Snowed In and Holiday Romance, so I'm really hoping that this will give us like glimpses in where those characters are at now, and kind of going back into that world is just gonna be so fun to read about. And next up we have 8 Dates and Nights, which is a YA Hanukkah book, and I actually tried to read this one last year, but I could not get it from my library in time, and I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to get it from my library in time this year either, but we are determined. We're gonna make it happen this year. I don't know much about this book, but I keep seeing it and I keep being drawn to it, so I just want to check it out. Like, I love a YA holiday romance, and I think because this one has been like on my radar for quite a while, it's time to get it read. And last but not least, we have a book that's not really a romance, but it does come out in December, and we're adding it to the TBR, and that is Sin Bin by Chelsea Curto. This is book 5 in the DC Stars series, and this book follows the coach of the DC Stars, and he has a romance with one of his players' sisters, which I think is gonna give a little bit of forbidden romance just because of the relationship and like conflict of interest maybe between the coach and the player, as well as an age gap, because our coach is in his late 30s and our FMC is in her mid 20s, I believe, but he's also a single dad. So I think it's just gonna have some drama. I think it's gonna have a ton of romance, a bit of spice, as Chelsea Curto does love to write some spice, and I just cannot wait until we're back with the DC stars, the players, the women. Like, I love this world so much, and I can't wait to dive back into it. So there you have it. There are my recommendations for winter reading, as well as my personal holiday TBR. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you found a recommendation. Please leave any recommendations that you think I would like in the comments below so we can share books on our TBRs. But thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will catch you in the next Bookmas video. Bye!